The happiest day of my son's life became the darkest day of mine. 300 guests watched in stunned silence as my daughter-in-law shoved my wife into a muddy puddle while wearing her best dress. My son didn't help her up. Instead, he wrapped his arm around his bride, whispered something into her ear, and they both laughed. My wife stood there covered in mud, humiliated, trembling, trying not to cry. Everyone expected me to lose my temper. Instead, I calmly walked toward the microphone. What I said next silenced the band, froze every guest, and made even the bride's own father put down his champagne glass. That single speech changed for lives forever. For 32 years, my wife Emily and I sacrificed everything to raise our only son, Daniel. We worked double shifts, skipped vacations, sold our dream home during difficult times, and quietly endured every hardship so he could attend the best schools and build the future we never had. When Daniel introduced us to Vanessa, we welcomed her like family. We paid for part of the wedding, attended every planning meeting, and never complained even when Vanessa constantly reminded everyone that this wedding had to be perfect. But perfection, to her, meant control. She criticized Emily's dress, mocked our simple lifestyle, and treated us like guests instead of parents. Daniel saw everything but always defended her. Still, Emily smiled. She believed love would eventually soften Vanessa's heart. The wedding day arrived at a beautiful countryside estate after heavy rain. Parts of the garden were still muddy. Emily wore the elegant blue dress she'd spent months saving to buy. As family photographs began, Vanessa suddenly frowned. She complained Emily was standing too close. Emily quietly stepped back. Then, without warning, Vanessa shoved her. Emily lost her balance and fell directly into the mud. Her dress was ruined. Her hands were shaking. The entire crowd gasped. Then something happened that hurt even more. Daniel walked over not to help his mother but to hug Vanessa. He whispered something. They both laughed. Emily looked at me with tears she desperately tried to hide. At that moment, I realized I had already lost my son. The wedding band continued playing as if nothing had happened. Guests awkwardly looked away. No one wanted to interfere. I helped Emily stand. I gently wiped the mud from her face. Then I kissed her forehead. Without raising my voice, I walked toward the stage. The master of ceremonies smiled and handed me the microphone, expecting a joyful father's speech. I thanked everyone for attending. Then I turned toward the bride and groom. I've spent 32 years teaching my son that respect is worth more than money. Today, he proved he learned nothing. The music stopped. The room became completely silent. I continued. Many of you think you just witnessed an accident. It wasn't. It was a test of character. My wife didn't fall because she slipped. She fell because someone decided humiliation was entertainment. I looked directly at Daniel, and my son chose laughter instead of loyalty. Emily quietly cried behind me. Vanessa crossed her arms confidently. Then I said something nobody expected. This morning I signed over ownership of my company. Daniel suddenly smiled, assuming it was going to him. It didn't go to my son. It went to the woman who stood beside me through every struggle, my wife. Gasps filled the room. Daniel's face turned pale. I wasn't finished. The trust fund we built over 30 years also belongs entirely to Emily. Vanessa's smile disappeared. Daniel stepped forward. Dad. I raised my hand. No. A man who laughs while his mother cries is not ready to inherit anything. The bride's father quietly placed his champagne glass on the table. Guests stared in complete disbelief. I handed the microphone back. Then I helped my wife walk toward the exit. Just before leaving, Emily turned around. She smiled not because she had won but because she had finally stopped begging for respect from people unwilling to give it. The ballroom remained silent long after we were gone. Weeks later, Daniel repeatedly called. We answered only once. He apologized, not because he lost the inheritance, but because he finally watched the wedding video. For the first time, he saw his mother's face after she fell. He broke down crying. Real regret had finally replaced pride. Forgiveness came slowly. Trust took much longer. Money can rebuild houses. Words can repair misunderstandings. But the memory of public humiliation never completely disappears. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't screaming. It's quietly choosing dignity and letting consequences speak louder than anger. That wedding wasn't remembered because of the flowers, the music, or the expensive reception. It became unforgettable because one family discovered that respect is more valuable than wealth, and loyalty is worth more than inheritance. The bride won the ceremony, but my wife walked away with something far greater: her dignity. And my son finally learned that some mistakes cost far more than money. If this story touched your heart, remember one simple truth. Never laugh when someone who sacrificed everything for you is crying. One day, life may give you the same lesson in return.